from California.
Checking in from the left coast where we take sound that combines sunshine with rhyme, move 'em around. Take it slow, watch the smoke we blow. Bring California swing in this thing for show. Well, hey there, baby.
Welcome to the Double I Show. I'm RW King, and with me as always,
Sweet Tea.
Hey T, what's going on, man? We're going to go ahead and jump into it again today, man. We got a lot to go on. You know, the last episode we talked about, the George Floyd thing, the big movement across the country. When we talked about it last week, it was just starting, man. So there's been a lot of stuff going on. We just want to thank everybody for joining us, for listening. I'm excited about it because we got a lot to talk about and a lot to cover. We got to squeeze it in, T. So I want you to say hello to everybody. Make sure you give all the hellos, and let's just get into this thing.
Yeah, so big shout out to, again, we still have all the COVID stuff going on. So again, as always, the first responders, the essential workers, everybody on the front lines that are still working on that. We haven't forgotten that. We just got a lot of other stuff going on too. I just wanted to make sure that I give a big shout out to them as well.
Absolutely, T. We want to thank all the first line, the first line workers, the healthcare workers, the first responders, all those people that are out there still fighting the fight, man, because that fight's not over, and we know that. But it's the other fight we have going on, T, right now is just something that it's astonishing.
It's
and
huge.
Let's just get into it, man. Let's get into it, man. We talked about it, and when we talked about it, it was popping last Friday night.
Yep.
There was still a little bit of some violence and tension in the air. And it seems after about 6 or 7 days, cooler heads have sort of prevailed. But in those 6 or 7 days, there was some turmoil and there was some bad people out there, Keith.
Yes.
So we had to call in National Guards across the country. We had to do things to sort of stabilize our cities. And it was getting a little bad. And I'm sort of glad it got back under control because that wasn't the message that was out there being sent. I think the other thing was, and the thing I'll comment on last and let you jump in here because I can just keep going. But one of the biggest things that I saw this weekend, it actually might have happened just a couple days ago or yesterday, but Orange County is a very predominant area, typically a white-dominated area near where we live, in Southern California, where Disneyland is and the beaches are. It's very white-dominated area. There are a lot of Asian communities as well.
Right.
And they had a very big peaceful protest in Fountain Valley, which is probably like mid-central hub of Orange County. And they had thousands of people show up. And I was watching an interview with a news guy, and basically he interviewed a black man who brought his young child. And he just wanted to get the perspective of the child. He asked him, "Why are you here?" And this maybe 10-year-old black, young man said, "I'm here because people are supporting me and they're going to help me through this."
Wow.
And then his dad was there and they asked his dad, "Wow, that's pretty powerful what your son said. What do you think about that and the message he's sending?" He goes, "Aside from the message he's sending, I want to make sure you turn around and get the crowd." And the cameraman turned around and panned on the crowd. He goes, "I believe I'm the only black person here. I haven't seen another black person."
Wow.
And that shows you, T, that this is just so strong for everybody here, because this is a movement for the people, and I agree, T, and I'm all with it. Black Lives Matter. But this is the biggest movement I've seen. And they have to run with that support because right now they have a chance and we all have a chance to make a difference, and we are. And to me, that was just such a biggest, powerful message that was sent, that this is not about race. This is about the people, see. And like we said, we all agree, man, right now it is about Black lives. And that's what spawned this. They're getting the shit end of it every time in the inner cities, and people aren't even paying attention.
Absolutely.
But because everybody's moving, that's what's making the difference, man. Your thoughts?
Yeah. So, King, I share a lot of that sentiment, and definitely, we support the whole Black Lives Matter because let's be honest, that's the catalyst of what started this movement to where we're at now, right? The whole Black Lives Matter. It's unfortunate that they had to start something like this because it wasn't just something that we did naturally, right? Where, as a society as a whole, we weren't we weren't doing our part to treat everybody like a human being, right? So it's a shame that we had to be there. But you know what? To your point, quite honestly, I'm witnessing things that I never thought I would witness in my lifetime. I am so impressed with this younger generation because they're fed up, and it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't matter the race. It's insane. Um, I never thought I would see this, and it's a beautiful thing when you think about it and you witness it and you just sit back and reflect on what you're watching. It's just it's awe inspiring. I'm proud of my son's generation because he's in that generation, and I'm proud of that generation for stepping up and saying enough is enough. You know, Black Lives Matter, and even the Black Lives organizers, because I hear a lot of people use a rallying cry of all lives matter, and that's kind of been adopted by some of the white supremacists to counteract that. And they really missed the mark because a lot of the Black Lives Matter founders are saying we're not saying that all lives don't matter. We're just saying that right now for this movement, we're trying to say that our lives matter too. And
Correct.
I think everybody gets that. Everybody understands that. And people are tired of being shit on and oppressed, just whether it's from the cops, from the system, whatever it is, they're just tired, and I'm proud. I'm proud to see them standing up. And you and I talked about this during the week. It's it's insane to see. It's just such a national movement now, and now it's going global. Now we're seeing it happen everywhere across the globe in other countries in solidarity and fighting for the basic human rights of all people. And it's just taken off like we've never seen before in our lifetime.
And I agree. I mean, I was watching that documentary the other day, and I wanted to go back and watch it to remind myself of what I went through during the Rodney King riots because I lived that, and I was a young adult. I was in my early 20s,
Right. And I was
so
in
I
my
was
teens.
living that. Yeah, and I was living that.
Yeah.
So I was affected by all those things that were going on, and I didn't remember a lot of the things that were going on. And it was such a different dynamic back then. And there was no voice for the people. The people were just in mayhem. They didn't know what to do, so they were almost in anarchy. And it was all the black people in South Central and the Mexicans in South Central against everybody, against the police, against everybody.
It was them
They even
against the
showed
world.
a piece where the police went to go break up something in some neighborhood, and the Crips fucking went over there and started having fisticuffs with them, throwing down with them, and the police retreated. And it just showed you how the leadership was back in that time and what the message was being sent at the time. And, we talk about progress and we talk about things, and yeah, you're right, these horrific things are still happening. But when you look at what was going on then to what's now, there is some progress that's made. And we have to grasp that a little bit. We can't say that nothing has ever changed because it has changed. And they
True.
made attempt to change, whether it was appeasement or not. And the problem is still some of the things that we spoke about, cultures inside of these precincts, the way the unwritten rules are, unwritten laws that they have to abide by because they're part of a group, and that's the difficulty, man, is because these guys do have a tough job, but it doesn't give them the right to do what they've been doing. And I think one of the things I want to get into, T, and I want your opinion, is there's been a lot of stuff going on social media, things like that, even in the news, about how bad the police are treating these protesters. And I know me and you've talked a couple times, and we've shared videos and we shared clips that we've seen.
Yeah.
And a little bit to me just seems a little bit over the top. And I mean, man, that to me, that's just the wrong thing to do. And then it just sort of stopped from the police. Like a couple days ago, they started going out and kneeling with the people, doing this, doing that. And then that makes me question, man, is this really from their heart? Or are they told to do this and they're just following an order?
Yeah, and that's where okay, so I'm glad you went there because it kind of goes back to how you started off and you were framing everything that we saw. The last episode that we had was what we saw everything in real time going down at the beginning of this thing. It's been a week now, and it's after, several days it's died down, but I feel that it started to die down a little bit too after those kneelings started taking place, you know, and I guess the cynic in me wants to say that it's because, or they've decided to kneel and to do things like that as a result of, hey, this is how we're going to combat it. This is how we're going to get them to calm down. So we need to do this just to save face right now. That's the cynic in
I think
me.
that's part of it. But remember,
Yes.
too, in the timing key, the timing of it was also that the other 3 officers got charged with murder.
True, that did happen
And
too.
and that calmed a lot of it down.
It did.
A lot of it down.
It did.
Because now all of them have been arrested.
Now let's break it down too, right? I mean, a lot of the violence that was happening, the looting and the rioting and everything, that had nothing to do with the protesters. And I don't even want to get into that whole conspiracy theory where they were saying that a lot of them, they're finding out later that they were professional agitators. They were Proud Boys. They were all these guys that were trying to infiltrate this and make it look like the protesters were doing this, right? All that stuff aside, I feel that the protesters themselves, because you and I saw plenty of videotape of protesters seeing people try to break glasses and looting, and they jumped in between and intervened and said, stop it, knock it off. That's not what we're here for. And that just goes to show you what the movement is truly about, what the people are truly about, and what this is all about. That's not that part. They can care less about that part. But now, were they angry? Absolutely. Hell yes, they're angry. Were they throwing some things at police and everything? Was there a lot of tension? Hell yeah, there was. Right? But I'm going to be honest and straight up, keep it 100 with you, King. I saw a lot of times where there was a lot of peaceful people. They were doing and saying what they want, but they weren't agitating. They weren't doing anything wrong. And it was police aggression that made them snap to get more aggressive from the protesters. And I couldn't understand why they would do that.
That's what I said in the beginning, right? That was the whole point. Is that they're spurring some of this violence too.
Yeah,
we saw those videos, we saw those things, and there's no getting away from your actions. I understand you're heightened and you're everything else, but you have to have restraint. You have to be able to control yourself and control that emotion, and that's what we talked about, the right people in those positions. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. It astonishes me how these officers, when they're mistreating these people, even now during these things, and they're getting caught on video because it's heightened. Everyone's with their cell phone right now, waiting to fucking video something. And put that shit out there.
Well, forget the cell phones. The news crews are out there, and they're turning around,
and they're getting shit too. Yeah,
yes,
I know, but that's
turning around and shooting them.
Everything is, yeah, but not even that. Just the fact that they get recorded doing it, it's just showing me that they're taking an order or they're being told something.
But they don't care.
The other ones are, and they don't care.
They just don't. I mean, let's just put it out there.
They're inside. They can't make that decision as a humanitarian. This is not right.
Exactly.
And they continue to do it because someone's telling them to do it for a fucking paycheck. That's wrong.
Fuck that.
That's wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's why the people are going fucking crazy. That's why I defund the police. Quit spending the fucking money on the police. Put it somewhere else.
Because they come out in militant gear, and instead of, I'll tell you real fast. We did watch a couple times where you and I even called it out to each other and said, this felt legit. This felt heartfelt when you saw police chiefs or certain people within the police embrace the protesters and not just take a knee, but walk with them.
The one to me, and I'm going to shout it out before I forget it, was that sheriff in Houston, man. Because he was straight up and he was legit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, but that it actually just illustrates my point. That's one of them. There was a couple of them that you and I talked about that seemed like it was very heartfelt and very legit, and they felt it, they meant it. And then there was a few even here in LA I saw where a police chief did it in front of a bunch of people that were surrounding City Hall, and it sounded weak. He was even trying to tell other officers to kneel, and other officers came, some didn't, but it just kind of felt like it was just contrived. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't legit. It didn't feel like it was from the heart. You know,
Well, what did you? Yeah. What about Garcetti?
yeah, the LA mayor. That to me was a photo op. To me, that's all that was. He was trying to kind of calm everybody down, and I don't know. It didn't seem legit. It just didn't.
All right, man. Since you spurned it right now, let's talk about fucking the president's fucking photo op.
Fuck, man.
What about that shit? Right? You have protesters in front of the White House, and this clown orders everybody to fucking get tear gassed and fucking, pepper sprayed and whatever else, so he could make a point and go over and pose in front of that church with his Bible.
Listen,
come on, man.
I'm getting sick and fucking tired of hearing all these protesters pre this with all the COVID out there, all these right-wing protesters saying you are violating my rights, my amendments, my First Amendment rights by making me shelter in place and I can't get a haircut. And they're over there fighting for a fucking haircut. And then this clown over there in the White House fucking gasses and starts pelting people with less than lethal, not still lethal, but less than lethal bullets than they were peacefully protesting just so he could walk across the street and touch a book that he's never fucking picked up. He held it like he never fucking held a book period in his life and looked like a moron standing over there. And these people enable him to do that. That's horse shit.
Yeah.
That's a violation of fucking people's real civil liberties, their real First Amendment rights. He just clearly violated. He flat out pretty much announced war against the American people. That's who he's going to fight. He's calling the American people terrorists for protesting. That's a fucking, that's a disgrace. People should be up in arms for that.
We're recording on a Friday night. Yesterday was George Floyd's memorial service.
Beautiful.
It was his funeral.
It was beautiful.
And there was huge protests and movements and solidarities across the country. And our president yesterday sent out 77 tweets on Twitter. 0 mentioned George Floyd.
But you know what? I'm glad it didn't. Because if he would have said anything, trying to be nice about it, trying to appease the crowd, that would have been so fake. At least you see his true colors, right? At least you know who he is.
He would be using that as a prop.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That is it.
But I'd much rather see the real him than somebody that doesn't mean it, and so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the other thing, T, that we talked about, and I think what we want to bring up and we want to make sure and throw it out here, man, is, okay, remember, a couple episodes ago, the only thing we were talking about was the COVID.
Right.
And now this thing hit, and people are out there, T, in the thousands, and there is no social distancing. And I know a lot of folks are wearing masks, man, but, things are going to spike. It's just going to be the natural sensation of what happens. I just hope this thing doesn't get into lockdown again because of this. I really don't, because we were just opening up.
Well, remember we were talking about the potential of a second wave. Well, this is a strong potential now. Now if it was going to be a reality, it is now, potentially. Because
it happened in so many places across the country.
Yeah.
We live in the Los Angeles Basin, Los Angeles County. You live in the Inland Empire out that side. And in Los Angeles County, it wasn't just downtown LA having movement. It was Long Beach, where I live. It was Whittier. It was Santa Ana. It was all these little small towns, too, that were having thousands and thousands of people there.
Yes, everywhere.
everywhere.
There was
And it
cities.
was like that across the country.
There was cities over here out towards me that I would have never guessed that you would see anything like that, and yet I saw it. I couldn't believe my eyes. I made me proud as an American to watch these people exercise their First Amendment rights. It was beautiful, but it was also astonishing to me and eye opening, because it's like I've never thought that I would see any of these small little cities out here with representation like that. And some of them, yeah, there was only like a couple dozen, but then there was others, even in a small city, that people just converged on that area. And, it's just shocking to be able to see it.
The other thing too, T, and we were talking about it, is just not just the fact of the mix of people, but just even the children, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people were taking their kids out there, and that's great. Hey, there's no reason to hide anything from kids, because that's the other generation coming up.
Yep. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Now, what do you think of this, King? Because I'm a little torn, because if I had a young child right now, I know me, and I would definitely want to take them. However, I'd be really guarded because of all the violence and everything that was going on, right? And maybe not from the protesters, but from the police. So I would be very torn about the whole thing, but I feel the need that they needed to see it. I've heard and seen a lot of backlash from people who feel the opposite, who say that their children, you can't expose them to that. And, what are you thinking, and things like that, because it's sad and it's unfortunate. But I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen video footage of young children crying because they got tear gassed and pepper sprayed. And, people out there are saying, well, that's their parents' fault for taking them out there. And I think it's one of those things where, like you said, they're the younger generation. They're the next generation. They need to be a part of this. They need to see this. They need to understand as much as they could at a young age, right?
Well, I mean, absolutely they do. And that's the point I brought up. They have to learn that. This is their impressionable part of their life. Regardless of what the consequences are. And yeah, I'm sure there's kids that got affected because they are throwing pepper spray. But you know what? You got to be smart as a parent. You're not going up in the front, man.
Yeah.
You're taking your child to see the experience. And if you have to be far away from it, you stay far away from it. And if it gets bigger, you move back. You stay away from the conflict. And when that conflict comes, you pick your child up and you get the fuck out of there. And your child will ask questions about, what are we doing? Why are you doing this? And you tell them why. And you explain that to them. But you have to be conscious of that if you're taking a child. I think in the last couple of days, it's probably a little bit different because there hasn't been those strong arm movements of the police really so much, because the people are sort of complying more. Remember, in the first couple of days, that's when the conflict started. The police gave an order, and the people didn't do anything. They refused to listen to them.
Right.
And now the protesters are listening, and that conflict is going away.
Well, yeah.
But I think it's like we talked about. It's the way the conflict happened and how they're doing this and who they're doing it to. Elderly people, women. I mean, we see these. They're just knocking women down on the floor, stomping on them, kicking them, doing things like that. We saw those videos. And that's the part that's disturbing.
It's very
sure
disturbing.
You got to do your job, but come on, guys, be a human. I mean, understand what you're trying to do, who you're trying to do it against. You're doing it against your brothers and sisters. And that's the bottom line.
You're right, King. You're spot on. I mean, spot on with that. And, something that you and I saw that transpired the last couple of days was an elderly man in his 70s in Buffalo, New York. And there was a line of police officers walking, and he walked up to them. Wasn't aggressive. He's an old man. What is he going to do? And he tried to say something to one of the police officers to talk to him. And the police officer, you could hear him yell, "Move, get out of the way, move." And then two cops just flat out pushed him. I mean, knocked him back hard with everything they got. The old man flew. and hit his head on the ground and immediately started bleeding out of his ear. He wasn't moving. And one cop, one of the ones that pushed it, just was like, fuck it, and kept walking. He didn't care. Another cop was like, oh crap. And he starts calling for something, but then he keeps walking. Another officer sees it and went down to a knee to try to see if the man was responsive. And another officer came up behind him and says, leave him, forget it. And that old man right now is still in intensive care. I guess he's critical but stable. And that just goes to show you how were you, in danger from an old man just wanting to ask you a question? You're not in any danger. You don't need to do shit like that.
That's not the question to ask, T. The question is, how could you do that to another human being?
Yes.
There's no need for it.
And so those two officers got suspended without pay immediately. I shouldn't say that immediately, but for police, as we've talked about it, how it takes them forever just to even do something against officers. The next day, when it first came out hours later, the police were saying, oh, he tripped and fell on his own. And then the video comes out. And once the video comes out, that's when they start changing their tune. And that's when they suspend the two officers. Now, today, 57 other Buffalo officers quit because they were pissed off that the two officers who committed that heinous act on another human being, because they were suspended, they were pissed off about that. So they quit in solidarity for the two pieces of shit. So
good.
Good fucking riddance. That means there's 57 less pieces of crap on the force over there
that are thinking that that's okay to do.
Yes, exactly.
Really, you couldn't go talk to the man and just tell him, sir, even if you grab his arm and walk with him to the side, you have to stay here. You had to shove him like that, bodily hurt him, and then not even care for him.
It's horrible. Horrible. I can't believe that they would do something like that.
Yeah, and not just that. I've seen so many other things too, but the problem is that's not all of them, right?
No,
so
not
you
even
have
close.
400 or 500 guys in there. The other guys were like, fuck that, fuck these guys. These guys need to get the fuck out of here. Those 67 or whatever they are, like, fuck that. Those are our bros. We got to stand up for them. You go stand up for them, dude. What they did was wrong.
That ain't my brother.
So the other ones, yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of those too. And remember, we talked about that. There are good cops out there that are good people. You know what I mean? And they're not about that. And they're not about doing this.
True.
Right? And we've seen that.
We've seen
the demonstration of that. Where even on the front line, people with shields, you see some guys that are just so aggressive in the line. And then some guys just even almost pulling away from their shield using their hand. Telling people, just back up, please. Just back up. And those people are doing better than the ones that the guy's shoving with the shield.
Of course. Because you're meeting somebody with aggression versus with compassion. And when you talk to somebody with compassion, they understand. It's like...
and I understand, like we talked about, all this intermingling with the police and the people now. And I think the majority of it, too, was like we said, it's just to calm the crowds down. Because they knew they were outmanned. What's the number basically in LA, just the city of LA, not even LA County, but the city of LA, if you counted the police per capita, per person, they'd have to take care of like 558 people each.
Right.
Okay. The masses were coming out.
Yeah. They
knew they didn't have a chance.
They were outnumbered big time.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
I think that was very evident when you saw the protesters surround City Hall. That became the most evident picture, because even with the National Guard and the police officers that were stationed around City Hall, they were vastly outnumbered. If the crowd actually wanted to do something, they had no chance. That was it.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. And that's the point, that it just takes one person to have one snapped moment.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is, man, to create something that we would never go back from, that would be in the history books. And because those things really didn't happen, there were some clashes, but not some that at least, ended in the loss of lives or a lot of loss of lives and things like that.
There were some. And I've been
I'm
reading
going to
about
say
them.
too that there was an officer that was shot in the head in Vegas.
There was,
yeah.
And there was also,
And there was
I don't know if you saw about the ex-police chief in St. Louis that lost his life as well. He was trying to stop some looters from looting a store, and they shot and killed him.
Yeah.
And it's sad because those people aren't there for the movement. They're not. They're opportunists.
You're right.
They're not there for the
and
movement.
the last negative thing I want to talk about with this, T, is I'm going to really talk and I want to get your opinion on what's really going on, because there's a focus with the NYPD now and maybe the direction they're getting from their mayor. And there's been a lot of stuff on social media. You sent me some stuff. I showed you some stuff I saw. 2 officers were attacked and stabbed, one of them in the neck.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the police are not even attempting much out there, and especially inside the city of New York. And I don't know, man. I just feel like, what aren't they getting? What don't they get? I don't know.
So the culture there has been reported as being very bad for a long time now, right? And it starts at the top of the NYPD and on to the mayor's office. Let's face it, right? And we've seen some of the worst stuff happening from aggression and everything from the officers. We've seen NYPD run people over. We've seen them start pepper spraying people while they drive by, just innocent protesters just walking. We've seen them, that old man that was Buffalo, New York. It's just so disgusting the way that the NYPD has been so thuggish about everything. They've taken a completely different approach, like you said, from most of the rest of the country. And they've actually exacerbated the whole entire thing. They've made it worse because you had people that just wanted to protest and exercise their freedom of speech, and they couldn't do that because of that thug mentality from the police department over there. I don't know. I think, to be honest, well, first of all, I think this mayor is, if he had any chances or ideas or aspirations, I would say, of re-election, you could forget that shit now, right? There's no way in hell he's getting elected. And that police chief, I don't understand why I haven't heard more people calling for that police chief's resignation. Over here in LA, our police chief misspoke and said something pretty bad, but it wasn't as bad as what you see as poor leadership over there. And I don't hear people calling for his head the way that they were over here with LAPD Chief Moore, just because he misspoke. People were calling for his resignation like crazy, right? So I really think that they need to get a handle on it. And I don't know, what can they do? I mean, is it the governor? Does the governor step in, King? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a whole different question. I'm not even really into that.
Do you know? No, I'm asking you. Do you know?
Yeah, no, I don't, but just going back to what we were talking about, right, as far as these police and how they're interacting with the people, forget about future and what these guys are doing. Right now, I think they have to understand, if they don't change the way and the things that they're doing, and especially with the interaction of the people, they're going to lose their city. And they probably already have and can't even realize it. But it's going to continue at a heightened level over there, very different than any other city. Yeah. And I think what you're going to start seeing is when all these things calm down, the crime rate, the things that are happening in New York City are still going to be extremely high. And they're going to continue on that pace until something breaks over there. And I think that's the thing I wanted to focus on with that. Who gives a shit? The mayor's got to get the fuck out of there. He's in charge of the police. But the reality is, it's still the culture.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's still the culture, because if you think about it, right? And I was looking at this the other day when I was watching that Burn Motherfucker Burn. That's the name of that one that depicted and the documentary about the Watts riot. Not the Watts riots, the Rodney King riots in South Central.
Right.
And the mayor was Tom Bradley. He was a black man. He was in charge of the police. The chief of police was Daryl Gates. Daryl Gates was more powerful than Tom Bradley at the time.
He was.
Daryl Gates could not be fired. It took a movement from heaven and earth to get that guy fired.
Yeah.
And then they said, you know what? We got to hire someone from the outside because there's no one on the inside that could even take this job because everyone's corrupt in here.
Right.
So they brought in Willie Williams from Philadelphia, the black police chief.
Black police chief. I remember that.
And that started a little bit of change here. And that's my point with New York. They got to figure out what the fuck their problem is, because the reality is everyone's pointing at the mayor. And yeah, he's the guy in charge of the police. But is he really? And that's what they have to look at. What is going on with these guys and their culture? And that's what has to change. And I think that's the movement and the change that's wanted from the people. Change the fucking culture of the police.
Right.
They're not out there to fucking destroy us. They're out there to help us.
Well, they're supposed to be.
That's my point. They have to change that culture to that.
Yes.
And these guys are refusing that. The other ones, sure, yeah, you're going to have the bad eggs, I think, but for the most part, even if the culture inside from above is not saying it, I believe the precincts are. The majority of them, some of them, there's a lot of good people, like we talked about, T. You know, but I don't know, man. I just feel like New York is so far behind with this.
They really are.
They're just not catching up.
Well, but I mean, look
and it's just showing so much. Like, guys, there's fucking cameras everywhere right now. You stupid asses. Like, you don't think this is going to be shown?
They don't care.
They don't care, T.
They don't fucking care.
They just don't fucking care.
Because they don't care about you or I or the next person. You know, they just don't. They really don't. That's just the fucking bottom line, right? They have no empathy. They have nothing. They're just fucking morally bankrupt people. That's it. You know? And they haven't had the culture change, the forced culture change, and the reckoning like we had, right? I mean, yeah, they had a riot. When was it? Like in the 60s, was it? Or something like that? They've had a couple riots and everything, but it wasn't like to the level like what LA had, right? And if you look back at the history of the police department over there in New York, even with Mayor Giuliani, when he was running it, right? He implemented stop and frisk, which was one of the most racist fucking policies that you can implement. And the police were all too happy to do that. And they did it like you wouldn't believe. And they just ratcheted it up. Even when the courts told them to stop, they would ratchet it up even more. So that's the fucking culture there in that police department.
And that's what needs to be changed with these movements.
Agreed.
And that's the focus that needs to happen with these things.
Yes.
And that's what it is.
Yes.
You know? I mean, even, okay, look at all these people stepping in it, T. Okay, we got to get into this, and it's going to take a while, so let's just get into it now, man. Drew Brees fucking came out and basically stepped in his shit. And he's really not going back on it. He's not really, acknowledging that this is he didn't. Because he, even on the video, let's just go back.
Okay.
First, the whole thing was basically somebody asked him what he felt about what's going on. And his comment was he didn't believe in anybody or didn't want to support anybody who knelt for the flag because his father and his grandfather fought in the world wars and blah, 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 all this shit. And basically it spurred a whole bunch of reaction from around the sports world, around the public. Like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? He's not getting what's going on. This has nothing to do with the flag. And basically gave him a chance to rebut himself. And when he rebutted himself, he said, yeah, you know, maybe I'm not as conscious or something, just some aspect like that. And I need to listen more and I need to do this. But I still don't respect anybody who kneels for the flag. So did he really change what he was saying?
No, he didn't. I mean, that's why I said he didn't. You know, to me, it's like what the police chiefs, what we just talked about, kneeling to try to appease the crowd, right? I think he did that. And I think he did that to appease everybody that was outraged over what he said, especially his teammates. Now, some of his teammates have come back and said, you know what, we're good. But I know that they're saying that to everybody else, right? To the public. But I think that locker room is destroyed because of this, because that guy is so fucking like just unaware and uneducated of the plight of his teammates and the people around him. I mean, not even the general public, but the guys that he says are his brothers that he goes to battle with
But
on
we
the field.
talked about this, T. Why is he like that?
Privilege.
He's never felt anything else.
He's
never felt
no.
that. He's never been fucking pulled over for nothing and pulled out of your car and everything ripped out of your car and thrown on the ground. Everything out of you sitting down. Take your shoes off. Take your socks off. Take everything off. Sit there. Fucking whatever else. Humiliate you. People driving by slow, just looking at you. And they just say, okay, you can go.
Right.
All
for
your
nothing.
shit everywhere. And they just walk
Pick
away.
everything up.
He never felt even shit like that.
No.
And I know that doesn't compare to fucking being murdered on the street. I know that. But even something as small as that, he never felt that.
No, because he grew up, his parents were already well off. He grew up in a very well off neighborhood. He has had
White
every
fragility,
fucking,
man.
Yes, he's had every fucking advantage. He has exactly what everybody in the Black Lives Movement has been talking about. You have that white privilege and you still don't fucking get it. And there's
okay, T. So think of this. So if you grew up that way, everything else, you really can't get it, right?
Well,
you're right.
You
can understand
you
it.
can understand. You can have empathy, though, but you can have fucking empathy, and you can understand and be socially conscious and self-aware enough to say, you know what, I am fucking privileged, and I need to check my privilege and use my privilege to help those around me that don't have it. And that's where he's lacking. That's where he fucked up, because he fails. Yeah. Because I got into 2 arguments with 2 separate friends on social media because of posts that I put, because of fucking Kaepernick, right? Because I said, this is what Kaepernick's been talking about. This is why he knelt. Yeah. He knelt on the grass, not on somebody's neck, right? And I fucking put that out there for the world to see on my personal, and I had 2 different white friends, both middle-aged white guys, and they both said, fuck that, that's bullshit. He's disrespecting the flag. I go, you ignorant motherfucker, you have no idea what you're talking about. If I were you, I would shut the fuck up.
But see, again, here's the shallow interpretation, because possibly those people didn't feel those things. It's white privilege. It's white fragility. They don't get it.
They don't.
And it's very difficult for a layman or someone who's not socially conscious to really grasp it, T. They're not getting it.
Look,
but the thing that's positive, man, is that there's so many non-colored people out in these movements.
It's
because
beautiful.
There are people out there that get it.
Yes,
that get it.
But here's the thing, right? Let's at least identify the difference, right, King? The people that don't get it are people around our age, in our generation. The people that do get it are their kids.
I agree.
Because
it's the same thing you said, and I keep going back to that with everybody. No, they're more tolerant.
Yes.
They've been raised with tolerance. Their classes are already mixed. There's different colors everywhere. People are people.
Yes. Yes.
And they are not getting this, and they're sick of it. And that's the best thing that's happening. You're right. The ones that are having the fucking problems are the idiots that are our age that never had to deal with it and refuse to have any other thinking.
Right. Now, I'm going to say something right now. I heard right before we started the show, I was getting some text messages from a listener who reached out to me personally, and you know, he's actually right now deployed. So he's part of National Guard and everything, right? And I will say this, he's our age. He's very ultra conservative, right? And I didn't say anything about, you know, him being deployed or anything like that. I just said, you know what, be safe. But by all means, just remember one thing. The people out there protesting are not your enemies. You treat them with respect and you treat them with love, and they will treat you the same way. He wrote back, he said, amen, brother. These are my people too.
You know, and that's how these people have to think. but you have the ones that are just militancy, the ones that just have a different thinking that don't care.
Right.
And those are the ones fucking it up. And we got to ostracize those people. We got to get them out. We got to pop them out like a pimple. We got to dig them out and keep them out. And that's really what's fucking up this country.
But you're right,
and
though.
It starts with the top.
You're right. But I mean, to get back to the whole Drew Brees thing, they fucking called him out. His teammates publicly called him out. Other athletes publicly called him out. And this is where
we said that the whole sports world called him out.
The whole sports world called him out. And here's
that's what I said. And the other thing is too, is even after his comments came out, there were people that were just like, this dude just don't get it.
Right. Now, what pissed me off was you have these fucking hypocrites on Fox News, right? Laura Ingraham, who, when LeBron spoke out against the fucking clown in the White House, she said, "You're an athlete, shut up and dribble." But when Drew Brees came out and said what he said, she's like, he has a right to say what he wants to say. He has a platform. You should let him speak. Well, he's a fucking white guy. That's why she said that. That's the fucking hypocrisy. That's the problem. The problem is the people watching that and seeing that are our age or older, and that's how they feel. You know, because
I agree.
It goes back to what you said.
Look at who they voted into the presidency.
Correct.
So there's a lot of people that feel that way.
Correct. But it goes back. It goes back to what you said.
We're having right now.
Yeah, this goes back to what you say a lot, though. Right. So I'm going to give you some props because you say this a lot. It's the narrative that the news wants you to hear. Right.
Yeah.
And that was her fucking narrative. And that's pretty much the whole Fox News narrative, because they're not news, really. They're just opinion. They're opinions. But I mean, they call it news, but it's not. It's opinion. Right. Because there's no fucking factual basis in there. But that's the narrative they want you to hear. That's what they want you to repeat. And these people go out, they listen, they hear that, and they just go around and don't even understand it. And they fucking spew it and they just say it and just repeat it, regurgitate this bullshit. And they have no idea why other people get pissed when they hear it.
I mean, the whole thing too is just, I mean, the reality is that it really doesn't matter what these news people say in his circle. And I understand what you're saying, but right now what we were talking about is how this guy's going to get affected and how's his locker room.
Well, yeah.
We talked about the sports world's reacting to him. We talked about his locker room. We talked about whatever else, but I'm going to say one thing. The best thing that's out of this is this guy's only playing one more year.
Now,
so whatever happens, it's only for one more year.
Okay, so do you think he should play? I mean, at this point, depending on how the locker room is going to accept him, do you think he should just fucking hang it up now and just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm done now? Like, no. I mean, you know, no,
I don't think he should. No, because I've seen worse, dude. I mean, there are guys that have come out and just basically stepped in it big time,
right?
And they're just still on teams.
What's that dude? What's that dude? Incognito or whatever his name was. That dude was hardcore racist.
That's a good point.
That guy was hardcore racist. Yeah,
absolutely.
You know,
so. I mean, it was just what it was, you know, and there was certain things. And he's in the league again, and he's done a lot of work to try to get better. And he identified he has some mental health issues.
He has, a lot of it is mental health.
Guy we're talking about, not Drew Brees, but I mean, going back to the Brees thing, it's just like, I think he'll play.
Okay,
you know, this isn't going to affect that too much.
Well, what do you think?
Because the bottom line is he's the quarterback.
What do you think? The locker room.
If it's good, there are going to be people that aren't going to buy into it. They're just going to basically have to shut their mouth and keep playing. If they're going to see a decline because they're in protest because of Drew Brees, or they're going to bitch about playing with him, I even think in his last year, those guys are going to get shipped.
Okay.
Not Drew Brees.
I got a question.
Right.
I got a question only because I didn't play football. You did, right? Now, you and I have seen and of course it's Hollywood, right? We've seen where the fucking quarterback does something to piss off the team or the line or whatever, and the line that's supposed to be protecting him just lets guys rush back and fucking hammer the dude. Do you think in actual life that something like that could play out at all?
No, I just said it wouldn't. That's what I said. Their performance is still going to have to be their performance. They're going to have to still do what they have to do. You know, if they're not going to do that, they're not going to be on the team. So if they're not going to perform, they're not. They break down more film than anybody else by the second, by the millisecond.
Right.
They know every movement every player makes on every play. They're graded on every play. And no, they're not going to allow that.
Right.
Never. And no, it wouldn't happen. I can see it maybe happening from one guy. Say, fuck it, I'm not going to give him my shit. You know what I mean? But I think that maybe one play, but you do that multiple plays in a game, and at some point they're going to say, you know what, dude, get the fuck out of there. You're killing us. I don't care who you are. You know, Pro Bowl guys of that caliber have more character than that, and they don't do things like that.
Right.
So, you know, if it's somebody who's not a Pro Bowl guy and he's having a bad day or he seems like he's getting beat because he's kicking our quarterback's ass, he's out. We're bringing in a backup guy. We got a backup guy.
So
he's pretty good too.
Staying in the NFL, but switching gears just a little bit, King. I want to kind of pick your brain about this and see what you think. And I know you're like a fucking savant, so his name escapes me, but I know you will know his name. He's the rookie quarterback that just got drafted to the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, maybe Jake Fromm.
Jake Fromm.
Okay, but hold on before we go there, man. Let's close up the Breeze thing. Let's close this thing up. So, I mean, yeah, you know, we talked about it. No, I don't think those things are going to happen. You know what I mean? I really don't think there's going to be that significant of a stuff. But what's going to happen post-career for him now? I mean, obviously, he's probably a guy for a little bit, probably could do a little bit of announcing.
Yeah.
Something like that. Do you think that would affect that key? Yeah. Or endorsement?
Endorsements. I think.
Or do you think at some point it'll get past him and he'll be okay? I mean, he really didn't like say the N word or nothing like that.
Right. And I think that the public has a short memory with certain things. So I think they'll get past it. You'll start seeing, you know, he's going to be untouchable for at least 5 years, maybe. And then after that, you're going to start seeing him come out and start doing these fucking old man commercials like Brett Favre
like
and all that, Jerry Rice and all that fucking shit. Yeah. You'll see that.
No,
shit.
You're right. Yeah, but I don't think it'll carry on with him that long. Personally, I don't think so. And I think that was sort of where I was going.
But
with
I can
it.
see
you
that
know, it might affect him in the close future.
Right. No, I can see
but
that
as long as he's not going to step in it in the next few years.
I can see it. I can see it a little longer because, like you and I have been saying, this time this movement seems different. It feels different. We've seen things happening now that we never saw before. So I think it is a little different, and I think that it's going to last a little bit longer than normal for him.
I mean, it possibly could. For me, you know, my opinion is I just don't think it will. I think in the short term, he might lose some sponsorships or some things right now, but I think overall it's not going to affect him too much. Obviously, he's already made his money. You know, he's a family man, so he's really not burning through his money. So he's well off. He's fine. His family's fine. So that's the bottom line. You know, whatever happens to him, happens to him. You know, I think before we go to that Fromm thing, the other thing I want to talk about is Goodell came out today. And he made a comment that the NFL was wrong for not listening to players and not understanding what Kaepernick was doing.
No.
What's your opinion on that?
No.
Right?
No. I got to correct you. He never mentioned Cap's name. And that's
I'm not saying it in generality, dude. That's really, if you listen to the whole statement, that's what he's saying, and that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about they're not listening right now.
But that's where he's
talking about back then.
But that's where he failed. Okay, they fucked Cap over, and he should have had it. He should have included.
Remember, there's a lot more things other than just including somebody's name legally, and they just settled a lawsuit with this guy. So you don't know that, T, and this guy's a lawyer. So it's not just about saying the guy's name. To me, I still feel it's like, how do you take the knife out of somebody's back you stuck it in 10 years ago?
Fucking deep.
Right?
And then that's fucking twisted it.
And now you're retracting? We didn't listen to you.
Fuck
we got to
you.
be more conscious.
Fuck you.
You know what I mean?
Fuck
this
you,
is
NFL.
the appeasement.
This is they took a knee.
The reality is
they took a knee.
Is they are not going to suffer from this. They are not going to have their best players say we're not going to play. And that's the only way these guys can really make a difference, Keith.
Okay.
I mean, that's the reality, right?
But
because
why?
they won't have that solidarity, dude.
But
They just
why?
won't.
Well, wait a minute. Why did they come out with this statement? They came out with a statement because of the video that was made by very prominent black NFL athletes that came out a day or two before that. You saw that video, right?
No, which one was that? Who was that?
Oh, so there was there was like Pat Mahomes, there was all these guys, right? And they were all,
Well, I've seen all those. You're making it seem like there was one that just blew up. What was the one you're talking about?
the
Who
one
was it?
where they all came out, they all recorded their spot, and it was all has all of their pictures on there, and they were talking about I'm George Floyd, and they started going down the list, and they were saying that we demand better from the NFL, we demand better as athletes of the NFL. They were demanding better, so that's what this is. This is the response to that. Because the NFL can't have that shit.
Yeah, no, and they won't. I told you that. They won't. They're smart enough to get underneath it. They're not going to get in front of it. They get underneath it. And there's a difference, man. They'll deal with it. You know what I mean? But they don't get in front of it until it shows up. And the Ray Rice is the best deal, right? Because you know what? They didn't get in front of the domestic violence issue they were having in their league. Until Ray Rice, they were getting under it. When it got discovered, now they're under it. Every time they hear it, let's investigate first, right? So those things are still getting swept. So yeah, man. I mean, it's still they're that powerful. So I don't think this is going to affect them. I don't think it's going to affect their league. I don't think the NBA is going to be affected. But now let's talk about fucking baseball team.
Well, wait a minute. I want to go back to the Jake Fromm issue.
Okay, tell me about Jake Fromm. What's up with Jake Fromm?
So Jake Fromm had private text messages to a buddy, and those text messages leaked. This was back last year when before he got drafted, where they were talking about gun rights. And Jake Fromm, he's a white quarterback, and he just said, you know what they need to do? They just need to raise the prices for guns so high that only elite white people can afford it. But let me get my silencer first. The fuck is that? How tone deaf is that? Elite whites and shit like that.
Does that really shock you?
No, fuck no. It doesn't shock me.
And that's the whole point. But, and let me ask this question.
Yeah.
Do you think, I'm sure that came out, but how many other white college quarterbacks in Division I college were privileged like that would make that kind of statement and probably have that kind of statement on their text thread?
99.9.
Right? That's my point, man. Just because this guy came out and they caught him, fuck, not even that.
That's the
how
problem.
Many of those good old boys there?
Right. And that's the problem,
that's
right?
the problem in our country.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's like what we were talking about with, how Breeze, he hasn't, he doesn't fucking get it. But when you ask him a question about something, he's been exposed. Now he went back and he retracted it. But that was his initial thoughts. That's how he felt. You saw the real him at that point. You can't go back on your real you, right? So we saw the real Fromm. You can't go back on that. And you're a rookie going into a locker room. You're supposed to be leading these men. And yes, they're professionals, like you said, and everything like that. But don't think for a minute that locker room is going to buy into his shit, or at least a lot of those guys aren't going to buy into that. You know what I mean? That's going to be a problem for them, especially with the rookie, because he doesn't have that clout yet. You know what I mean?
What clout does he need to play the position? I just explained it to you. Everybody is getting paid to execute what they're supposed to do. If the quarterback is doing his job and other guys on purpose because they don't like him or are doing something, those guys are not going to be around, T. It's not going to happen, because they will lose their job. It's very difficult to do that inside of a locker room. Yeah, they may have it silently, but there are guys that went their whole careers and they just fucking were hated in their locker room. Right? So I don't think that's really going to affect the locker room situation. I think the bigger thing to say about it is, like you said, this guy was just in college. This guy was he was at the University of Georgia.
What are his
There's
fucking
a lot
teammates?
of black people at the University of Georgia.
Fuck yeah. What if his teammate? What if his ex-teammates?
You don't have respect for that? You went to war with those guys for 4 years.
Yes.
You fucking bled with them. You sweat with them. You did those things. That builds a bond. And to send a tweet like that or a text like that or whatever it was just shows you again it's white fragility. It's a lack of getting it, T. They don't get it. And Max is saying hello to everybody. All right.
What's up, Big Max?
Yeah, he wants to make sure and pub it out there. He always does.
He's fired up over this shit too, though. He's tired of this shit.
Oh, dude, we had some pretty crazy stuff going on over by where I live. And there was some action, man. We could hear things going on. We heard when the military came in about 2 a.m. I mean, it was a little bit hairy over here.
Yeah, you were texting me when it was going on. So, yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll let you jump on to the next point that you wanted to say. That wraps up the Fromm thing for me. I just kind of wanted to throw it out there because that shit pissed me off.
I think it just proves the point, too, of like we talked about, man. It's just a privilege and the white fragility and the lack of understanding. Not lack of understanding, lack of getting it. They might even understand it in a book sense. Lack of awareness, lack of humanitarian.
Self-awareness.
Right, being a human, yes. Right, that's the issue. Where's your social thought, man? Where's your social thought?
Real quick, I heard this, and it was an ex-athlete. It was actually Shannon Sharp, and he was going off. He was going off about Tony Dungy a little bit, and he loves Tony Dungy, but Dungy was kind of, saying things like, you got to know Drew Brees, you got to know his heart, you got to, he was kind of giving him a pass, and he goes, you know what, that's the humanitarian in Tony Dungy. He goes, bless him for that, because he's a man of God, and that's how he believes. He goes, if a man is 99.9% bad, Tony Dungy will find that 0.01% of good and focus on that. He goes, that's just how he is. He goes, right. But you know what? He goes, I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired. He goes, I'm not just tired. I'm tired. He goes, because all due respect to Tony Dungy, he keeps saying that we got to turn the other cheek. When a man is slapping me, turn the other cheek. He goes, I'm getting tired of being slapped because all these men over here that are slapping me are taking my kindness for weakness. And he goes, here's the thing. He goes, everybody in this world, if you were to talk to the racist white people, they think that no black man or no minority has ever contributed anything to society at all. It's always been white men. And he goes, so if that's the case, he goes, it's not true, but if that's the case in their eyes, then how do you come to me and tell me and apologize to me for the way that you treated me or the way that you lacked the empathy and say, I didn't realize, you need to teach me. You need to help me understand. He goes, wait a minute. You were born and raised, and you were supposedly raised with all these values that you preach. How do you not know? How do you not know that you were treating me like shit? How do you lack that awareness? And it goes back to this. It goes back to Breeze. It goes back to Fromm. It goes back to these guys that are brother in arms on the field, like you said, blood, sweat, and tears. And it just kind of seems like it's all fucking fake.
The only way it's really going to show up, T, is if these guys just stop playing. And unfortunately, they don't. And that's the big problem. They can say whatever they want. But until someone says in their prime, a big player, a Patrick Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson, somebody like that, you know what, guys? I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of the social injustice of this company. And you know what? It needs to change, and I'm not going to be part of it until it does. I'm out.
That would be a powerful message. That would be powerful.
That's what it's going to take. But unfortunately, in the history of this thing, they don't do it. They don't do it.
Cap's the only one that kind of did.
Yeah.
Cap's the only one because he sacrificed his fucking career for what he believed. And I admire that.
Okay, now this too. He was already sort of on a declining kind of thing. The organization wanted to try to trade him. They wanted to do things.
Correct.
So he wasn't going to be in that organization.
Correct.
And the reality with Kaepernick is he has to be in the right system to work.
Correct.
And Harbaugh got that out of him. No other coaches probably would have done it, other than maybe the guy in Baltimore right now because he's grasping Lamar Jackson.
Absolutely.
Right.
But how many, he's still
So-
better than half
so
of the
that-
guys in the league at that position.
Let me finish, T. So when he decided to do that, and he was already, like you said, an iffy situation and better than only half the guys in the league, and there was that much turmoil around it and pushback from the ownership, which one of these owners was going to step over the line and tell their guy to go ahead and sign him? None of them. None of them. Because they're fucking chicken shit.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to have fucking protests. They didn't want to have people there because they were missing the fucking message.
They didn't want the press.
And they didn't get it. And Kaepernick even told them what it was.
Yeah.
This is not about the flag, guys.
And they
This is
let
about the mistreatment of people from the police.
and they let the fucking clown in the White House bully them too. Because he made it about the flag. And they let him control the narrative of that shit. Do you remember when fucking Pence went over there to the game and stood up when they kneeled and then got up and walked out? Do you remember that? That's fucking horseshit. They let them control the narrative because they were too afraid to push back and say something and step up as a league. And I admire the NBA because they don't do that. They let their players be socially aware. They let their players be able to express themselves. And they're very socially conscious as a league as a whole. They're very progressive. I fucking love the way that the NBA handles business when it comes to that. And I think if the NFL were to be smart about it, they would start adopting a lot of that too, right?
Yeah, man. You know, T, I think that year when Pence went was the year after they let Kaepernick go, and the players were still supporting Kaepernick, and they did that.
You know,
I don't think he was playing.
Fucking, you're right. But it was the Colts against the Niners. That's why I thought Cap was still there.
Well, there were still Niners players that were supporting him.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's what it was. Because Cap probably didn't play in his last game was like 2015. Because I think there was a whole year where he was on the bench, basically.
He was back and forth, right? So yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right. But I misspoke about that, but it was the movement. It was the whole meaning behind it and fucking, but I mean, again, they controlled the fucking narrative is what I was getting at. But you know, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and it's just like, it's a shame and something too, where these guys use those platforms and try to do things to make themselves look like they're socially conscious. I'm talking about the vice president, those guys. And it's just ridiculous, huh?
Yeah.
You know, that they even put up that charade.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sort of glad, like you said, too, that idiot didn't mention him yesterday.
Yeah.
Because he would have just been using him as a prop.
Exactly. You know, and we got enough of that bullshit, and everybody sees right through it. So we don't need it. You know, we don't.
Okay, so now the other thing, man. Okay, let's just get off the politics, get off of that stuff right now, and just go a little bit into sports. What have I always told you, T? Major League Baseball sucks my balls. They are proving it 100%, dude. These guys are completely ruining the sport. We talked about it, maybe not the last episode, but the episode before. How these guys just, by the lack of them not understanding to take a loss and do this is going to help them long term. You know, even we've talked about that personally, T. They could have been the first sport back if they did this the right way.
Yeah.
Started on July 4th. All eyes on them.
Everything.
Everybody watching them. The Korean baseball organization started a month and a half ago. So if those guys could do it, you're telling me MLB couldn't do it, but they couldn't agree on the money.
It's all
on
money.
The language of the money, and it's all money.
All money.
And yeah, you're right. They drew a line in the sand, said, okay, that's it, guys. If you're not going to take it, we're not going to play. We won't have a season. And now they're throwing out a thing where the players, you know, they came up with some new proposal for their money because they want to cut the players' money again because the owners aren't going to make the money. And the players came back with a proposal for a 112-game schedule and said, okay, this is it. And we want to get paid for 112 games. The owners came back with a 50-game schedule and said, take it or leave it. This is it. What do you think about that?
I think it's fucking horse shit. I think both sides are fucked up. I get where both, you know, I understand the arguments on both sides. I truly do. but I don't give a fuck. And you know me, I'm more of a baseball supporter than you are. Absolutely, for sure. And everybody listening to this that have been listening to the show from the beginning, you know, all two of you. No, just kidding. But, you know, anybody who's been following the show knows that all you do is talk shit about baseball, right? Well, you know what? I'm getting there with you. I'm coming on board with you, King. I'm fucking tired
I've
of this shit.
lived this my whole life.
I'm
with
tired
these
of
guys,
this shit, though. Yeah, but you know what?
Right?
It's so I understand contract disputes. I understand when you have like a year loss because of you know, you got negotiations and all this shit, right? I get that because every major sport has gone through it, but this is different. This isn't, you know, we don't like the you know the players' contracts, how wording is, and this and that. What we're going to drug test? No, this was a pandemic. This was something entirely different, and you need to fucking adapt. You need to get over yourself on the players and the owner's side. You need to fucking start listening to each other, and you got to get off of the whole just bottom line dollar bullshit because you're killing your sport, and this goes beyond just this year. I truly feel that the ramifications are going to last a long time. They are killing this sport
I
very
don't
fast.
think they're going to be able to pull out of it.
No,
I think that
they're gonna tailspin.
the loyal fan is going to be pulled out of there. It's not going to be the same. And they were already going to have issues to deal with until this thing got under control or they could control it and nobody had any issues. We go back to what we were doing, sitting right next to somebody, eating, breathing, touching us, touching everything around us with no fear. And until that happens, these guys needed to get anything they could, and now they're not going to get that. So, but on the other point, and I heard this on a sports station, I'm just going to throw this in there. They put a poll out on one of the big sports stations in the area yesterday, and they said if the Dodger games opened up today with social distancing measures and things like that, and you may have to wear a mask, would you go to the game? Over 10,000 people responded to their poll. Over 70% were, hell yeah, I'm going.
Really?
So there's still the fan out there that wants that go, man. You know, and that's the thing. These guys got to get together or they're just going to kill their sport. They're already killing it. Because at this point now, to get them back in shape, of spring training, all these things, when would they ever play? They might as well just wait till next year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's at the point almost where it's not worth it.
I mean, look
it
how
was such at a crucial junction that they had to make a decision so fast within the last 2 weeks, and now they're even further apart. They're in their bunkers again. Just hunkered down.
Now, did they give a drop dead date? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I don't remember hearing anything.
I don't even know, but the players said they already rejected it. They didn't need the date.
Yeah, they're fucked. They're fucked. I mean,
and now think about it in this aspect. Okay, maybe 82 games. Okay, man, it's half a season. Let's play.
Yeah.
But now you're talking 50 games. You want me to go out there and risk myself when long term I might hurt myself or do something? The other thing is what's going to happen now economically for the sport. So now the Mookie Bettses and these guys, they lost hundreds of millions of dollars because of what's going on. Because next year he's a free agent. What are those free agent peaks going to be? What are they going to do with all these contracts? They're not going to be able to pay because there's going to be people coming in, revenue.
Okay.
Because they fucked themselves.
Well, let me ask you this though, right? Does the contract, and I don't know this, but I mean, I would imagine that if there's no season, that the contract just carries on to the next season, meaning it's almost like the season never existed and his final year would be next year.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No,
I'm just curious because I don't remember that.
They determined and they had to do a vote with the players union and the players, right? That they wanted credit for this year. And it's more beneficial for the players to say, yes, we want more credit for arbitration and things like that.
Right.
So, if you're not going to play, still give us the credit for the year for playing. So, yeah, that means like Mookie Betts, all these guys who were playing on a 1 year this year, he's a free agent next year.
Right. And that fucks the Dodgers.
Yes and no. He was probably going to sign with them anyway. There's still a big boy who can afford him, but definitely the market's going to shift, man.
They're going to lose a lot of money.
They are, and it's not so much just because the pandemic that was going to hurt them already.
Yeah.
But because of now the way the ownership is standing, the way they're standing, and what they're doing, this is going to be potentially, I mean, devastating, right? Instead of $40 million, he's making $25 million.
Well, it's a fractured.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a fractured relationship, right? So now,
well, they all are. It always has been.
But I mean, even worse.
So
you know what I mean? So the divide just gets bigger. So to your point, if a guy would normally get 45, he might be offered 25 now, right? And
well, no, he's not going to get offered it because of whatever. It's going to be dictated by the market. So yeah, it's sort of like they base it on they open up their books a little bit to these guys so they can sort of see what kind of percentage of their what these guys spend, right? So they know what these max contracts sort of could be. When there's no income coming in, they're going to share that easily. And these guys aren't going to be able to ask for that kind of money. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
So no one will pay it because there's no money coming in anywhere. Maybe a couple teams may be able to do it. Maybe the Dodgers and the Yankees. But other than that, it's going to be tough for teams, right?
It is. It is.
So that's what I'm talking about. It's not going to be because, hey, we're telling you because of a fractured relationship and what happened last year, we're only going to pay you 25 this year. No, it's because that's a new market, man. And the other thing is sort of the owners dictate the market because it's based on their revenue. Right? They're not going to pay a guy $40 million if they can't fucking pay him.
Okay.
If they're not making 100 times that, you know what I'm saying? Right? Their whole package, right? They're not going to spend that income or that money on payroll and operation. They're still making their money.
Okay, but think of it this way, right, King? Either way, the owners win. Because let's say they get their 50 game season. And they understand that next year, based off of the revenue, and the revenue dictates it, and we only did 50 games this year. Oh, you want to do a standoff? You want to have an impasse? And you just want to say fuck it? Okay, we're good with that. Why? Because now we can force the market to go down. We can force that on you guys. So now we don't have to pay you those big crazy salaries right now. We can start lowering that because, I mean, let's face it, some of these salaries were getting outrageous, right? And maybe that's one way of them controlling the salary market without having to go and cause a big thing like other leagues have had to do when they went to a cap, right? Baseball doesn't want to have a cap, but maybe this is the owner's way of being able to control some of that cost. I mean, that's
really
the cynic in me. That's the cynic in me, right?
Yeah, that's the sideways on it. You know what I mean? But I mean, the reality is no matter what it is, it's still based on the revenue they're bringing in.
Right.
And that's sort of transparent to a point. And that's how these guys know what to ask for. And these elite guys, that's when they demand this money. And they're the ones dictating the market, those players. Because the owners will pay that. And there's multiple owners that'll pay that money. Yeah. So when it's like that, then fuck yeah, you know what I mean? There's going to be people that pay it.
I just think it's going to reset the market at a lower price, no matter what.
And I guess the point I was going to get at is it doesn't really matter what happens from this point on, even from the point that they didn't agree on starting as soon as they could. From that point on, that already shifted. Once they stopped play and stopped the spring training shit with the COVID, it already affected next year.
Yeah.
But you're right. Every step they're taking is just taking it more and more down that hole. And it's going to be worse and worse and worse.
I'm disgusted with baseball because you see other leagues, NBA's announcing now that they're good. They got a plan. They're going to be launching. The NHL is, NFL's still on track. You know, the coaches came back. And what's going on with baseball? They can't even fucking get into a room and work things out. All because of money.
Yeah.
All because of fucking money.
And that's really all it is. That's exactly all it is. It's just money. It has nothing to do with anything else.
Nope. And
it's stupid. And it's like we said, there's no one in that sport in ownership that has heart.
That's what it is. You're 100%.
There's, and it's just the way it is.
You're 100% right.
And they're being run like businesses, and they don't care. They have other businesses that are taking a dive too. So you know what? They're just treating it like another business.
You know, it's funny you say it that way too, because if you take a hard look at it, right, just take a step back and you see guys that play basketball in the NBA, you see guys in the NFL, you see guys in the NHL, and you hear them talk and you hear that they're, just everything, how they talk about the sport, their love for it, the drive that they have. It comes through. It comes through out on the field or out on the ice or on the court. You see the guys, the love and the passion they have for it. You don't really see that with baseball. You don't really see guys doing that or saying or talking like that. You don't see that enthusiasm to take the field the way you do for other sports. At least I don't. And when you take a step back and you look at it, it's just a business. To them, that's just, hey, this is my living, this is my profession, and this is what I do. Doesn't matter. How many guys sign with shitty teams because of money when it should be also, I want to sign with a team where I can compete for a championship?
Well, there's not even that thought in baseball.
None.
It's whoever's going to pay me.
Right.
I'll go to the San Diego Padres, bro. You pay me.
Fuck you, pay me. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll lose
exactly.
every fucking game. I don't care. Makes no difference to me. And that's what we're seeing. And it's coming out.
That's a sport, and that's what it is, and that's what it's been. And that's why I don't like it, T. And that's just the bottom line. There's very few guys that play with heart, that play with passion. And it's just tough, and to me, I don't want to be a part of a sport like that. And that's why I think it sucks. So, one thing I want to bring up to you, we're done with baseball. That's it. It's over. We'll talk about it next year. I hope they don't play this year. They deserve it. The other thing I want to talk about to you that came out today, and I don't know if you heard this, but there was a pretty predominant college athlete, and I'm not sure where he plays at, but he basically said that he's refusing to play college football anymore until the college system changes because it's more racially unjust than basically any other government we have. And I'll find out the guy's name and we'll talk about it more next week. But what do you think something like that? And do you think guys are going to follow him, T?
Well, I haven't heard the story, so this is all news to me. So
like I said, it was just, I just told you it. There's a predominant college athlete. He said he's not going to play college sports. Who cares what? I didn't even say what sport it was. He's not going to play until the racial injustice in the college system is changed.
Now, my question is,
he refuses to play any sports.
How does that affect his scholarship? Because I'm assuming if he's prominent, he's on a scholarship.
He'll be put off scholarship.
Right, which means will he continue at the school?
No.
I mean,
they'll give him an option to pay.
That's what I'm saying.
Because they're not going to kick him out of the school.
Right.
He's a student enrolled, but you have to pay it.
But you have to pay.
You know what I mean? Correct.
I mean, fuck, I love the fact that he's taking a stance. I love the fact that he's standing up and he's living by his convictions. Fuck that.
So the question was, do you think that other athletes are going to follow this? Or do you think he's going to be the guy on the island, man? Because, I mean, obviously he's the first one to come out and do it. And like you said, basically they're throwing away a free education that they might not be able to pay for. They probably will not be able to pay for on their own.
Yeah, so I think he's on an island.
Do you think other athletes will follow him?
No.
I think there might be a couple. There might be a couple,
but I don't see it happening yet. I think we haven't gotten to that point yet. And I hate to go back to the Cap thing, right? But Cap was ahead of his time. Now we're seeing, several years later, we're seeing the ramifications of not listening. So I think he might be setting that trend. He's that trailblazer, right? And he might be the college,
the martyr.
Yeah, the college Cap, right? He's the guy that's gonna lead that charge, but ultimately he's gonna go down for it. But there'll be guys several years later, and it may get to that several years later. I just think he's gonna be ahead of his time. I love him for doing it. That's fucking great. I mean, how many times have you and I had these conversations just privately at a game? We're driving to the game or we're at the game and we're talking about it, how the, NCAA, how they treat their athletes, right? I mean, these guys they're free employees to them. In a way, it is kind of like an indentured servant, right? Because
Yeah.
You can't.
And they're making a ton of money off
They're
of it.
fucking making a ton off of their back, and they get
Look how hard it
nothing.
was for them to accept the fact to let them make money on their image. They're selling jerseys with these guys' names on them.
Fuck, they're still
They're just
fighting
selling
that.
jerseys with their numbers on them.
They're still
No,
trying to
they
fight that
passed
shit.
it.
No, I know, but they're
No,
still
they passed it.
they still talk about it though. They still bring it up. It still
Of
fucking
course, they're not
pains them.
happy about it,
It
because
pains them.
but I mean, they had to give in somewhat. You know
Times
what I
are
mean?
changing.
They had to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they were forced to. You know what I mean? They were forced to do shit. That's just it. If you trust them to do it on their own, to be able to keep up with the times, there's no fucking way, because they want that money. They want that dollar, right? They don't give a shit. And if you think about how much they make off of a single athlete versus how much they're giving him in an education, which, let's be honest, if it's a football player, most guys after 3 years, they're gone anyway. If it's a basketball player, they're gone after 1 year. So they're not really, taking that much as far as an education. Most of these guys leave college anyways, right? Because they go pro.
Yeah, no, you're right, but they are allowed to go back and finish their degree.
Correct, they are.
Because
But how
they
many
stay
do
in
it?
good standing with a lot, especially when they go into the pro ranks, because they can finish it off online or do whatever else and get their degree. So a lot of them do. The one and dones in basketball, no,
No,
not
none
many of them do.
Yeah.
But the football guys that leave a year early or something, even a lot of those guys are redshirted, so they already finished and graduated. They're just playing football.
Right.
And that's
But
really
still,
the reality of
But
that.
I mean, even then, how much is it costing? What, a couple $100,000, $100,000? But they've made millions off of that guy, especially if he's a star. The fuck out of here!
Absolutely.
The fuck out of here!
Absolutely. Just think of this: if you got a couple good players and you go to a bowl game, how many millions is that for your organization?
Shit. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
absolutely.
So, I mean, hey, I got a little something for you, T. And you up for a challenge?
Bring it.
All right, man. So I'm going to throw something at you just because, let's just get off of these topics. Everything is really a little bit of downer today. And we talked pre-show, man. There really wasn't any entertainment going on, but something just spurred into this little brain of mine that I watched. Now, remember well, let me finish, dog. You're going to lose it.
That's scary.
You're going to lose the important part, all right? And don't make me lose my train of thought either. Back when we started this, in the first episodes, this guy was on our board, T, and I kept shutting it down because I just didn't think it was relevant. And you were the one pushing it. And I sort of forgot about it, and everything sort of forgot about. And now there's a new documentary on Netflix popping about your boy, and you're going to talk about him. This is complete, folks. I have not even told T anything about this, and I want to see how much he knows about this guy. But I just saw a documentary on Jeffrey Epstein, dude.
Oh, fuck. My son today told me, he goes, "Hey, Dad, do you see the documentary on Netflix for Jeffrey Epstein?" And I said, "No, they got it on there now." And he goes, "Yeah." And I was blown away. I was like, "Holy shit." So that is on my weekend playlist. You better believe I'm fucking watching that shit.
Okay. Hold on, man. I'm going to throw an apology to you, Sweet Tea. Right now in public, it is recorded that I didn't think this guy had enough legs to carry a show. This guy did so much shit, dog, and there's so much involved with this guy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
This guy knew so many people.
Prominent.
He was best friends with Trump.
Yes.
They used to hang. They were boys.
Yes.
Right? And it showed. Everything showed when this guy got arrested for these. I mean, he was raping young women.
Yeah, pedophile.
And paying them. And he had an accomplice. His wife or his girlfriend at the time, whoever she was his accomplice. And he built this pyramid of young girls, and it was just ridiculous.
It was horrible.
And all these girls came out, and they talked about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
he had a private island. Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. They used to call it Pedophile Island.
Yep. There's a lot.
One of the princes, Prince Albert.
Yep.
All of these guys, he was connected, and he got in trouble, and he got arrested, and he got thrown in jail. But the way he got thrown in jail from that, I don't know if it was the state attorney or something, the attorney general of the state or something like that, Acosta. And he gave him the sweetest deal ever.
Money.
Like 6 years or something like that for all this shit. but all he had to serve was like 1 month, but he had work furlough.
Right.
So he could leave the jail from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Then he only did that for a month.
Yep.
Then they let him out, and this dude was flying in his jet, doing whatever. They didn't know where he was going. And nobody did shit because this dude was connected, dog.
Well, I heard that during the work furloughs, he was still doing this shit. Business as usual.
Well, he would have to go to his office.
Yep.
And there was a sheriff or an officer that would have to park at his office basically to make sure he didn't leave or go anywhere because he had a tracker on too. And basically he would have women go in there and do whatever. He was just, like you said, business as usual for him.
Yep.
He made his money in a Ponzi scheme in stocks, millions and millions and millions of money, dollars in money, and basically just lived off it and was this pedophile that was going around who knew all these prominent people. Bill Clinton.
I was just going to say Bill Clinton.
Kevin Spacey.
Yep.
All these people were his friends and had multiple pictures on the island, Prince Albert of England.
Yeah, when he got asked not too long ago by a reporter about that, he sat down and did an interview. He gave some of the worst, shittiest answers you could ever fucking give.
When we said that, we were talking about it at work, and a couple people watched it, and basically that was the same thing. At least say, hey, I remember the picture, but hey, I left after that. Nothing happened. But he's basically saying, I don't even remember taking that picture.
Yeah.
Does that mean you were intoxicated? You were under the influence? Multiple people saw him multiple times with that same girl.
Right.
Who was at the time was 14, and the last time that he was with her was 16. And all I got to say, man, is these guys are pigs. All these motherfuckers need to get their fucking, just a bullet in the back of their head to me.
Right.
Right. But I mean, just the way this guy was treated, that finally that Acosta guy got promoted by Trump and was the Secretary of Labor. But then the Senate called him out and dug up the shit about fucking Jeffrey Epstein and said, how could you fucking appoint this guy when he fucking let this fucking criminal walk?
Mm-hmm.
So they made him resign.
Yep.
Then after that, it reopened the case against Epstein, and he got thrown in jail. And then 2 days before there was an event, he transferred all these millions of dollars from every account he had in the United States to the Virgin Islands in coded accounts. And then 2 days later, he committed suicide.
Yeah, right.
What do you think about that? Right.
Yeah, right.
What do you think happened to him?
So I think, to be honest with you, if he was that well connected, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I gotta say, I think he's still alive because all that money got transferred.
Okay, so the first thing I thought was he was dead.
No.
But then someone said that today, and I agree with you, man.
So
he's alive.
Yes. Now let me tell you why. Not just the money transfers, but they took him out in a body bag. He was covered when the protocol, the typical protocol of that prison was you don't put a body bag around that person, whether they're dead or not. They have a different type of covering. They have a different type of everything. Nobody actually ever saw his body ever. And I'm not that guy. You know what I mean? I'm not saying Tupac is still alive and shit like that. Right. But I think this guy's still alive because he was that well fucking connected and nobody ever saw anything after that. And those fucking guards that, just conveniently didn't do their job and just, got a slap on the wrist for it. Come on. It's too fucking convenient. Right?
Plus he had the ability to pay everybody.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree. And I wasn't thinking that way. I was thinking, man, the first thing I thought was, fuck, the people that he knows are thinking, fuck, this dude's already caught. We got to get rid of him. But then I'm thinking, wait a minute. This guy's pretty smart, T. He was a smart cat. He made a lot of money. He was a smart guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had to have backup. He had video cameras in all his areas. So he had pictures of everybody doing shit.
Yep.
Right? With girls, holding girls, touching girls, naked girls, whatever, everywhere, all over his house, because it wasn't just confined to the bedrooms.
Insurance policies.
Right. So I know that when that first time somebody fucking said something, look, guys, you don't think I took care of myself? Make sure everybody knows that. Okay, don't fucking try to fuck me over. Because if you do, this shit's going to come out whether I'm alive or dead. And there's prominent people that, like we just talked about, Prince Albert, Alan Dershowitz.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of prominent people. Bill Clinton.
There's a lot of people that didn't come out either.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, but they're saying there's a lot of big names that never got made out to the public.
Right. And I believe that too. And that was the last thing I was going to mention about this. I think that they made the documentary, but there were still people that they couldn't mention in there.
Right.
That were just too big and too powerful. They couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Fuck.
Right. Because I mean, and you think they mentioned 2 presidents. So there was other famous people in there that they just couldn't throw out under the bus like that. They couldn't do it for some reason, but I believe there was more. They probably
even
could've.
Bigger fish than them.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, man.
That's what I'm saying, dude. So this dude, yeah, I agree to you. He's alive somewhere, a little bit of some plastic surgery. He's fucking good to go.
Whole new identity.
Non-extradition country.
Yep.
Yeah, whole new identity. He's fucking cruising in France right now, or he's fucking wherever, some non-extradition country, dude. Living like a king under some other name.
Yep.
So I'm doing the same shit he's been doing, dude, until he gets caught again. Right?
Fuck. See, I told you it was a fucking story.
I know. I just apologized.
I know you did. I know you did.
I did.
You know,
and this was completely impromptu, folks. It wasn't like I told him anything about it, but we both knew about this thing. And I didn't do enough research in it. I saw a little bit of it. And I just felt like, oh, this doesn't have enough legs. I'm not even going to get into it.
And I kept, I was screaming at you practically. No, man, we never came off the board. Talk about this guy.
But back in the day, he didn't even commit suicide yet.
Right. But I knew it was big then.
He was just going to get arrested again.
Right, but I knew
he was just going to get arrested again.
Yeah.
Correct.
I saw this shit coming, and I was like, fuck, we got to get in front of this shit.
Yeah. No, I just apologize, man. That's the only one you'll get from me ever.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I got it on fucking tape. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think with that, man, that's just going to wrap us up because I'm about done getting, fucking egg on my face. I messed up, man. But yeah, that thing was good. Watch it, man. It's on Netflix. Watch it. It's pretty good. But,
that'll be my
there's really
weekend.
Nothing else popping anyway. But yeah, that thing's good. It's a 4-part series, about an hour each one.
Oh, that's easy. So, yeah, I'll do it this weekend.
Yeah. Well, you know how I do it, dude. If it's the first one's good, I keep going. Doesn't matter, sleep, whatever.
You'll be up all night. I mean? You binge.
Yeah. How do I watch it the first night, dude? I think I want to sleep like 2 a.m. Yeah, it's a bad thing. Start that shit at 10 and it's good. Hour shows. Okay, I'll watch all 4. Fuck it. I can't stop at 3. It's 1 o'clock. Fuck, I might as well hit the other one.
Fuck
you know what I mean?
Fuck it. I'm there already. Yeah. Let's just do it.
Yep, exactly. So I think it's going to wrap us up, T. Again, I want to mirror the voice of George Floyd's brother and that Black Lives Matter. But right now, all these people moving together are helping all that, man. We got to keep that movement going, G. We can't separate it. Because this is bigger than anything I've ever seen in my life and we'll probably ever see in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And, I just hope that the positive stuff just still keeps coming. And this change still keeps coming because we need it. There's a social injustice out there for sure. 100%. And we're all for it right now. We're supporting Black Lives Matters. Because right now, that's the movement, and that's what happened. And George Floyd gave his life for that.
He did,
and we're going to respect that, and we're going to honor that, and we're going to support that. But this change is huge, too. And I just want to thank everybody out there, all our listeners who are out there protesting. Be safe. Don't do anything bad. Don't do anything to antagonize. Send the right message, because that's what Floyd's brother said. Don't go out there. They're peaceful people. He wants you guys to be, he wants to be remembered in his brother and everybody's actions out there. And that's the message we got to send to everybody. We'll make a change, man, because this thing's big right now. It's all colors. It's all people. And they're helping out, man. They're helping out and pushing this Black Lives Matters in the forefront right now. Because before they couldn't do it by themselves, G. And that's the bottom line. And with all this movement right now and this support, man, just ride that wave, man. Let's just get this thing together as a people. The people. Let's do this as the people. And take care of our brothers, our black brothers right now who are getting fucking hammered. So just be safe out there, folks, and do the right thing. Remember, there's still a pandemic. Try to be safe, folks. You know what I mean? We don't want any more issues. So I'm gonna keep going if I don't stop. So I'm gonna stop, and I just want to thank everyone for listening. Again, I'm gonna turn it over to T to close it up.
Yeah, thanks, King. I share your sentiments exactly. However, I just wanted to say this to especially the younger generation right now that may be listening. Right now is your time. We had our time and we're doing our part. Right now, King and I are right here on this podcast trying to speak truth to power. This is our way of helping you guys out. But this is your time. And you guys got to show. You guys are standing up, and I love it. You guys are taking the reins, and you guys are showing everybody this is how it's done. And you're doing it right. You're doing it the right way. And you guys are taking notice. You guys are the change. You guys have already made a huge difference, more so than any of us could ever imagine. Don't let your guard down for a second. Keep riding that wave. Stay persistent. Stay resilient. Fight the good fight. King and I, we have your back. We're here for you. Not only do we hear you, but we're there with you. We speak with you. We speak for you. Your fight is our fight. So for the Double I Show, I'm Sweet T.
I'm RW King.
And we are
out.
Check it in from the left coast where we take sound that combines sunshine with rhyme, move 'em around. Take it slow, watch the smoke we blow. Bring California swing and this thing for show. Well, hey there, baby.